Please comment where you are watching in the world. His name was Dave. Casual but confident. Tall enough to make me feel like a dainty Victorian lady, even though I'm 5 feet 8 inches in boots. He smelled like cedarwood and a little bit of nerves. Not too polished, not too cocky. That magical middle ground where he knew the difference between a Cabernet and a Merlot, but didn't make a production out of it. We'd matched on Hinge 3 weeks ago. His profile had a picture of him holding a rescue dog and another one where he was mid-laugh, wearing a truly hideous holiday sweater. I liked that he wasn't trying too hard. I liked that he asked me about my tattoo in the first message instead of just sending, "Hey," or something that felt like a bot wrote it while half charging. We met at a wine bar downtown, the kind with dim lighting, exposed brick, and a chalkboard menu that changes based on the bartender's mood. He got us a booth. A booth. Not a bar stool or a high-top table where my knees dangle awkwardly like I'm 5 years old. No, a damn booth. With a cushion. We talked. We laughed. I told him about the time I accidentally joined a mime class in Paris instead of a yoga class. He told me about his childhood dream of being a professional Lego engineer. There was real chemistry, the kind that makes you forget to check your phone or worry about how you're sitting. By the time we wrapped up, I was glowing. Not just the wine glow either. That I might actually like this guy glow. Outside, the air was cool, but I barely noticed. My cheeks were flushed, my heart was light, and I was already composing the "you guys, he's actually normal" text I'd send to my group chat on the way home. "I'll walk you to your ride," Dave offered. I waved it off, smiling. "You don't have to. I'm good." "Sure. Absolutely. I'm a city girl. I can navigate a sidewalk." He grinned. "All right. Text me when you get home. Promise." I turned, walking away like I was in a rom-com montage, hair bouncing, heels clicking, heart fluttering. I saw what I thought was my rideshare, a sleek black sedan parked just a few feet ahead, back door slightly open, interior light on. Jackpot! I walked up, opened the back door, and slid in with all the grace of someone who'd done this 100 times. I even said, "Hey, how's it going?" in that casual, flirty tone I reserve for Uber drivers who have above a 4.95 rating. Except this wasn't an Uber. This was a car occupied by 2 elderly people who looked like they'd just seen a demon crawl into their back seat. The woman in the passenger seat gasped so loudly, I thought she was about to call an exorcist. The man at the wheel gripped the steering wheel like he was preparing for impact. And I just stared, wide-eyed, frozen. "Oh my God," I started. We all screamed. At the same time, I scrambled for the door handle like I was being ejected from a moving aircraft. "I'm so sorry," I yelped, my voice hitting octaves I hadn't reached since middle school choir. "Wrong car. I thought you were. Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The old man shouted something in a language I didn't recognize. The woman clutched her purse like I was about to rob them. I tumbled out of the car on all fours, my bag clattering to the pavement, and tried to make a graceful exit, which of course is impossible when you've just accidentally invaded someone's date night with their wife of 60 years. And that's when I saw him. Dave. Standing across the street. Watching. His expression was unreadable for a second, suspended somewhere between horror and hysterical amusement. Then slowly, he raised a hand in the world's most awkward wave. I wanted to die, or evaporate, or turn into a pigeon and fly away. Instead, I gave a tiny wave back like, "Yes, this is me, the human you just had a lovely date with. Please enjoy this live performance of my public humiliation." Then I turned and walked directly into a lamp post. Loudly. Bang. I bounced off of it like a cartoon character. My forehead throbbed. My pride shattered. Somewhere behind me, I heard Dave yell, "Are you okay?" I did not dignify that with a response. Instead, I limped toward the correct vehicle, my actual Uber, which had been parked just one row over the entire time, patiently waiting for its idiot passenger. I climbed in, trying not to cry, laugh, or vomit. The driver looked at me in the rearview mirror and said, "Rough night?" I nodded. I think I just initiated an international incident. He smiled like this wasn't even close to the weirdest thing he'd seen. When I got home, I did the only thing a woman can do after a night like that. I took off my bra, poured a glass of wine, and stared at my reflection in the mirror, wondering if I had a forehead bruise or just a dented ego. My phone buzzed. It was Dave. "Dave, that was honestly kind of impressive. Didn't know you could scream like that." "Dave, also, are you okay? That looked like a solid lamp post hit." "Dave, still would love to see you again. Maybe next time I'll walk you to your ride, grinning face with sweat." I stared at the screen. Then I laughed. Like full-on laughed. I hadn't even realized I'd been holding my breath since the lamp post. I typed back. Me, I'm okay. Might never show my face downtown again, but I'm okay. Me, I'd definitely be down for a second date. But I'm picking the ride this time. Me, and maybe a helmet. He replied immediately. Dave, deal. But I called dibs on the front seat if we get chased by old people again. I laughed again. Maybe, just maybe, this guy was worth bruising my forehead for. I knew I should have picked the other restaurant. The tapas place across town. The one with string lights and waitstaff who all look like they're in indie bands. But no, I had to make a statement. I had to pick this place. The same one I used to come to with him. I swear to God, I thought he didn't work here anymore. The night started off fine. Actually better than fine. My date, Jordan, showed up early. Clean-shaven, button-down shirt, and smelling like the kind of cologne that makes you lean in just a little closer without realizing it. He held the door open for me, complimented my dress, and even made the hostess laugh. I was feeling good, confident, ready to shake off the ghost of relationships past. We were seated at a cozy table near the back, partially hidden by a large plant that may have been fake, but gave me the illusion of privacy. Jordan was telling me about his new client. He's a UX designer, and I was nodding along, half listening and half basking in the glow of what felt like a fresh start. And then I heard it. That voice. Low. Familiar. Dripping with sarcasm. Evening, folks. Welcome to Bellamy's. I'll be your server tonight. I looked up, and there he was. Ethan. The ex. And not just any ex. The ex who sawed through my self-esteem with a butter knife over 3 years of on-again, off-again emotional confusion, late-night arguments, and some of the best chemistry I've ever had in bed. Yeah, that Ethan. He was standing there in his black apron, holding a tiny notepad and staring directly at me with a smile that said, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Jordan looked up and smiled politely. "Hey man, how's it going?" Ethan gave him a nod. "Can't complain. What can I get you two started with?" I wanted to crawl under the table and fake my death. But instead, I smiled like my spine wasn't trying to detach itself from my body. "I'll take a glass of the house red," I said through clenched teeth. Jordan ordered something fancy with citrus and bitters. Ethan scribbled it down, then turned to me with the fakest sweet tone I've ever heard. "Still into red wine? I thought you were more of a tequila girl." Jordan looked at me, confused. I smiled. Tastes change. Ethan raised an eyebrow and walked away. Jordan leaned in. "You know him?" "Oh," I said, laughing too hard. "Yeah, that's Ethan. An ex?" "Yup. Just a minor one. Tiny blip." Jordan nodded slowly. "Okay. Cool. Chill." But the chill, it was gone. Because now every time I tried to focus on Jordan, I could feel Ethan somewhere nearby, lurking like a passive-aggressive ghost with great bone structure. He returned with our drinks and made a show of placing them down very carefully. Too carefully. "Here you go," he said. "House red for the lady. And for you, sir, an old-fashioned with a twist." Just like her taste in men, apparently. Jordan laughed. I did not. Ethan winked and sauntered off, and I took the largest sip of wine I could manage without choking. "I'm so sorry," I muttered. Jordan shrugged. "It's fine. I mean, a little weird, but kind of funny." That was when the bread basket arrived. And by arrived, I mean Ethan dropped it with the flair of a magician revealing a dead dove. One of the breadsticks rolled off the basket and onto the table like it was trying to escape. "Oops," he said, not sounding sorry at all. Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Ethan," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Can we maybe just keep this professional?" "Oh, absolutely," he said, grinning. "I'm nothing if not professional." He left again, and Jordan leaned in, smirking. "So, how long did you two date?" "Too long." "Got it." I tried to steer the conversation away from Ethan, focusing on Jordan's work, his travel plans, the fact that he once accidentally joined a reggae band for a week in Thailand. But every time I started to relax, Ethan reappeared like an unwanted pop-up ad. He brought our entrees with a flourish, setting Jordan's plate down gently, then placing mine with a subtle clatter. "Still vegetarian?" he asked. "Nope," I replied, stabbing my fork into the chicken breast defiantly. "Interesting," he said. "You used to lecture me about meat consumption for 10 minutes every time I ordered a burger." "I've evolved." Jordan looked between us like he was watching a mildly entertaining tennis match. Halfway through dinner, Ethan returned with a pitcher of water and, while refilling my glass, accidentally spilled a splash onto the table, right near my lap. "Oh no," he said, dabbing at the table with a napkin. "Didn't mean to get your dress wet." I stood up, blotting at my thigh. "It's fine," I hissed. Jordan stood too. "Hey man, maybe ease up a bit?" Ethan shrugged. "Just doing my job." I excused myself to the restroom, where I leaned against the sink and stared at my reflection, like I was trying to time travel out of the moment. Why was he doing this? Was he still bitter? Still obsessed? Or just bored and looking for someone to torment? When I returned, dessert menus were on the table, and Jordan was scrolling through his phone. He looked up, and I could tell the spark was dimming. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just soaking up the ambience." Ethan returned one final time with a smug little smile. He cleared the plates, then leaned in, just enough for Jordan to hear. "You can do better than him, you know." I froze. Jordan blinked. "Wow. Ethan," I said, standing. "We're leaving." Jordan didn't argue. I grabbed my coat, tossed a few bills on the table, and walked out without looking back. My heels clicked against the tile like gunshots. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. I exhaled hard. Jordan followed me out. That was something. "I'm so sorry," I said again. He's never done anything like that before. I had no idea he still worked there. Jordan gave a half smile. "It's okay. Honestly, it was kind of entertaining." I looked at him. "Really?" "Yeah, like dinner and a show. But maybe you've got some stuff to work through." I cringed. "I mean, probably. But I'm trying." He nodded slowly, then pulled out his phone. "I'll call a rideshare." We didn't kiss goodnight. He didn't text the next day, or the day after that. Honestly, I didn't blame him. Later that week, I went back to Bellamy's with a friend. Ethan wasn't there. Probably his day off. I left a note for the manager. It said, "You should probably train your staff not to flirt with customers while soaking them in water." Also, the risotto was overdone. I still haven't been back, but I did finally block Ethan on Instagram. Small wins. I should have known that a woman who brings her dog on a first date was going to be a little intense. But if you'd seen her profile, hazel eyes, sarcastic smile, a caption that read, "My dog comes first and you'll have to win him over," you'd understand why I swiped right. Her name was Riley, and she was hot in that literally doesn't care what you think of her kind of way. Her voice notes had the kind of dry humor that made you want to impress her. She worked as a vet tech, said she loved hiking IPA beers, and guys who aren't afraid of a little dog hair. I figured I could handle the dog. What I didn't know was that the dog could not handle me. We met at a pet-friendly cafe downtown. It was one of those places with bone-shaped dog biscuits in jars on the counter and a water bowl under every table. I showed up 10 minutes early, because I'm a bit neurotic about first impressions. I wore a chambray button-up that hugged my arms just right, and I even brought peanut butter treats in my jacket pocket, like some kind of discount Caesar Milan. She arrived fashionably late, leash in one hand, iced coffee in the other. The dog padded beside her like a furry bodyguard. "Hey," she said breezily, tugging her sunglasses down. "Hey," I replied, standing awkwardly. "You must be Riley. And this must be Moose," she said, smiling. Short for total moose of a dog. Moose was a 90-pound German Shepherd mix with paws like oven mitts and a face that said, "I've seen things." He looked me up and down with the same expression my high school principal gave me when I wore a fake lip ring to class. I knelt a little, holding out my hand, treats at the ready. "Hey Moose, who's a good boy?" He growled. Low. Deep. The kind of growl that makes your guts shift. I froze. Riley laughed. "He's just slow to warm up." But Moose wasn't warming. If anything, he was radiating heat like a nuclear reactor about to breach. We sat. Or rather, she sat, and I hovered near my chair like a man who might need to bolt at any second. Moose flopped under the table, right next to my foot. I tried to ignore the way he was staring at me like I owed him money. "So," Riley said, sipping her drink, "what made you swipe right?" I smiled, trying to play it cool. "Honestly, you seem like someone who'd call me out on my BS, and I kind of respect that." "That's fair," she said. "I did stalk your Instagram. You do a lot of shirtless hiking." "Exposed," I laughed. "I'll admit, I may have been trying to show off." "Moose isn't impressed," she said, nodding toward the dog. I looked down. Moose was still staring. I offered him a treat under the table. He sniffed it, then bit my shoelace clean off. Clean. Off. I didn't scream, but I made a noise. A very undignified, high-pitched noise. Oh crap, Riley lunged forward. Moose. No. I held up both hands. It's okay. It's fine. Just, he got a little enthusiastic. I looked down at my shoe. One lace, hanging sad and limp. The other one, gone. Moose chewed it twice, then swallowed. You're not allergic to dogs, right? She asked. Only emotionally. She laughed. Moose didn't. We ordered food. She got some kind of vegan wrap. I got a turkey panini, and tried to salvage the conversation. I kept my feet tucked tightly under my chair. Moose's head was resting on my untied shoe like it was a chew toy on standby. So, I said, voice a little tight, how long have you had Moose? Rescued him 3 years ago. He was abandoned in a backyard. Took months to gain his trust. I nodded. He seems loyal. He is. And smart. He knows people. She said it slowly, like it meant something. Like it was a warning. I can tell, I said. Then Moose growled again. Every time I talked, he growled. When I picked up my fork, growl. When I leaned forward to say something funny, growl. When I adjusted in my seat, snarl. It got to the point where I was talking in a whisper and barely moving. I looked like I was trying to defuse a live bomb with a salad fork. You okay? Riley asked, brow raised. Yeah, I said, voice cracking. Just enjoying the ambience. She grinned. You're kind of cute when you're nervous. That made me relax a little. Until Moose farted. Loudly. And then looked me dead in the eyes like it was my fault. I think he's testing you, Riley said. Is this normal? He's protective, she said. He can tell when someone's not right. I tried not to take that personally. We finished eating. She licked hummus off her thumb. I tried very hard not to stare at her mouth. She was hot. Funny. And Moose was an obstacle. So, I said, standing carefully. Want to take a walk? Sure, she said. Let me just, too late. As I stood, Moose lunged, not aggressively, but assertively. His giant paw landed square on my foot, the one with the untied shoe, and sent my heel sideways. I stumbled. My knee hit the edge of the table. My fork clattered. Riley gasped. You okay? Totally, I lied, eyes watering. Just Moose again. She smiled, amused. He likes to keep things interesting. We walked a few blocks to a nearby park. I limped slightly. Moose trotted ahead like he'd just won a prize. I caught Riley glancing at me. Look, she said, suddenly serious. I know it's weird bringing a dog to a first date. No, not at all, I said too quickly. She paused. But here's the thing. I've learned not to ignore his instincts. If Moose doesn't like someone, it usually means something. I nodded, slowly backing away. Moose growled. Again. I stopped. She looked at me. I really wanted this to go well. You're charming. And kind of hot in that overthinks his text messages kind of way. I laughed nervously. That's oddly accurate. But Moose clearly doesn't approve, she said, sighing. And I don't ignore red flags anymore. She reached for his leash. I hope you find someone who's more compatible. Maybe someone with a cat. I nodded. Maybe two. We stood in silence for a second. Then she offered a small, sympathetic smile. Take care, okay? You too, I said. And tell Moose we're cool. She didn't answer. Moose growled one last time. And I left, limping, shoelace flapping, ego bruised, and wondering how I got dumped by a dog. I met him on Hinge. His name was Caleb, or so I thought. We messaged for just over a week. He was funny, attentive, and quick with responses, not too eager, not too cold. He asked questions, listened, complimented me in a way that didn't feel scripted. Wasn't dirty or crude. Came across genuine. I even wore lipstick for our first date that he suggested. Nice Italian down the road from us. He was already at the table when I arrived. Black button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, a watch that looked expensive but not flashy. He stood up to greet me, pulled my chair out, and smiled like he was genuinely happy to see me. You look even better in person, he said. Thanks, I replied. You clean up well yourself. The first 20 minutes were perfect. We ordered wine. He told me about his job at a tech startup, something vague about cybersecurity and digital branding. I asked what that meant, and he said, I keep people safe online. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. That line stuck with me later. He asked about my favorite books. I told him I was reading a thriller about a woman who suspects her husband is secretly dangerous. He laughed and said, I hope this isn't your way of warning me. I laughed too, but not as hard, because something felt off. It started small. He couldn't remember which city he said he was from earlier. First it was Portland, then he mentioned Seattle. Then he said he missed the East Coast. I let it slide. Then he told me he went to UCLA, but when I asked which year, he paused like he had to do math. I smiled, nodded, and excused myself to the bathroom. And that's when my stomach flipped, because my phone was in my purse and I'd been too polite to check it until now. But something in me, call it gut instinct, call it too many true crime podcasts, told me to Google his name. Caleb Martin. Job, cybersecurity. From originally Portland, now LA, but lived in Seattle. I typed it in. The first few results were clean. A LinkedIn page that looked generic. A Twitter account with barely any posts. But then about 3 links down I saw it. An article. Local man arrested for stalking and impersonation. I clicked. Same face. Same smirk. Different name. His real name was Nathan Calloway. And he'd been arrested 2 years ago for using fake dating profiles to get close to women, tracking them, showing up at their homes, even following one to another state. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the photo again. There was no mistaking it. It was him. Caleb. Nathan. Whatever his name actually was. I felt sick. I mean that literally. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I had to get out. I took a shaky breath, flushed the toilet for show, and opened the door. He was still at the table, sipping his wine, scrolling his phone casually like he hadn't just shattered the floor under me. I walked back and forced a smile. "Hey," I said, grabbing my purse. "I think the shrimp isn't sitting right. I feel kind of queasy." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Oh no. Already?" "Yeah. I think I'm gonna head out." "I'm so sorry." "I can drive you," he offered quickly. "No," I said, maybe too fast. "No, it's okay. I'll get a lift. I need to go." He stood up. "At least let me walk you out." "I'm good," I said, backing away. "Really?" He didn't sit back down. He just stood there watching. Eyes too still. Smile too stiff. I turned and walked toward the back. Not the front door. The kitchen. The waiter glanced up as I pushed past the swinging door. "Can I help you?" "I need to leave through the back," I whispered. "There's a man out there. I think he lied about who he is. I don't feel safe." To his credit, the guy didn't even hesitate. He grabbed a manager, they nodded, and within seconds I was being led through a narrow hallway lined with dish racks and the smell of garlic and stress. The alley was cold and oddly quiet. I called a lift with shaking fingers and texted my roommate. "If I don't text you in 10 minutes, call the cops." I'm not kidding. The car pulled up fast. I got in, locked the doors, and didn't say a word until we were 3 blocks away. I waited until I was home, doors locked, blinds closed, before I blocked him on everything. He messaged me once before I did. "Hope you're feeling better. Would love a second chance to make it up to you." I never replied. Later, I Googled more. Turns out, Nathan had used at least 4 different aliases on dating apps. He'd gotten probation, a slap on the wrist, but he was still out there. I reported his profile. It was gone the next day. He said, "Let's do something casual." I said, "Cool, I'm down for casual." What we didn't do was define casual, which is how I ended up in ripped jeans, a band tee, and Converse, standing in front of a taco truck, next to a man wearing a full suit and tie. Let me rewind. His name was Nathan. We matched on a Wednesday. His profile was clean and charming, with a hint of effort, photos that didn't scream, "I stole this from LinkedIn," and a bio that said, "Looking for someone who can out-sarcasm me. Bonus points if you like tacos." I do in fact like tacos. Very much. We texted for a few days. He was witty, surprisingly open, and told me he once accidentally set off a fire alarm trying to steam a suit jacket in his hotel room. I told him I once walked into a glass door at a wedding. It felt like we were evenly matched in terms of chaotic energy. So when he suggested a taco truck date, I was all in. "Let's keep it casual," he'd said. Casual. I showed up early, parked on the street, checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, and thought I nailed the look. Ripped jeans, sneakers, mascara, and a lip tint that said, "I put in effort, but not too much." I didn't even bring a purse, just my phone, keys, and confidence. Then I saw him, standing by the taco truck, in a suit. A full suit. Not like a blazer and jeans or a fun, "I'm a cool professor" look. No, this was full-on business formal. Dark gray, crisp shirt, tie knotted with military precision. He looked like he was about to give a TED talk on investment portfolios. I froze. He turned and waved. I waved back, slowly, like I'd just realized I'd walked into a job interview wearing pajamas. "Hey," he said, walking over. My brain short-circuited. "Hi. Oh wow. You look overdressed?" he asked, already smiling. "A little," I admitted. He looked me up and down, not in a creepy way, more like a trying to figure out if he missed a memo way. "I thought you said casual?" I asked. "I did," he said. "This is my casual." I blinked. "You wear a tie to eat tacos?" He shrugged. "I came from a client meeting and didn't have time to change. Figured a suit's just a really confident hoodie. That's not how clothing works." He grinned. "You look great, by the way." "Yeah, like I just escaped from a pop-punk rehearsal." "You make it work." I laughed, but I was already doing that thing where I kept tugging at my shirt, suddenly hyper-aware of every hole in my jeans. People were staring. Not just at him, but at us. We looked like a prom date that got lost on the way to the limo. Someone actually asked if we were headed to prom. "I'm 30, I muttered. "Do I still look like I'd go to prom?" "Nathan," without missing a beat. "I would have asked you to mine." I rolled my eyes, but I smiled. We ordered tacos, he paid, insisted on it, and then came the next problem, seating. There was none. The taco truck had a standing counter and 2 wobbly stools that were already taken by 2 teenagers making out like they were getting graded on tongue technique. Nathan glanced around. "Want a stand?" I blinked. "You're in a suit. So, you're gonna get salsa on your tie." "I've accepted that risk," he said solemnly. We stood at the counter with our cardboard plates, elbows bumping, trying not to make eye contact with the couple next to us. I took a bite of my taco and immediately dropped a piece of carne asada on my shirt. "Great," I muttered, dabbing at it with a napkin. Nathan looked down at his own plate. "Don't worry. I just got guac on my cuff. We're bonding. I feel like we're in a weird social experiment." What happens when 2 people from different fashion planets collide at a taco truck? Starring me, the girl who thought casual meant don't wear a bra. He choked on his horchata. I smirked. "Too much?" "No," he said, coughing. "Just vivid." Despite the chaos, the conversation flowed. We talked about our worst dates, his, someone who faked a British accent for 2 hours, mine, a guy who tried to explain Bitcoin using Legos. We swapped movie hot takes. He made fun of my love for reality TV. I mocked his Spotify playlist, which included 3 Coldplay songs. Then came the next awkward moment. He dropped salsa on his tie. He froze. "Don't move," I said. "Is it bad?" "Let me just." I reached over with a napkin, trying to dab gently, but the angle was weird, and I may have accidentally grazed his chest. We both paused. His eyes met mine. "Sorry," I said, voice suddenly softer. "It's fine," he said, not moving. There was a weird little silence. Not uncomfortable. Just charged. I pulled my hand back. He cleared his throat. "Want to take a walk?" he asked. "I'd love to." We tossed our plates, left the taco truck, and wandered down the street. The night was warm. His jacket was slung over his shoulder now, and I noticed he had forearms worth writing about. We walked for an hour, maybe more. At one point, I stopped to take a picture of a neon sign shaped like a banana, and he said, "You're gonna post that and pretend it was your idea, huh?" "Absolutely." We made it back to my car eventually, still laughing. I leaned against the door, hesitant to end it. He stood close, hands in his pockets. "I had fun," I said. "Me too. You're not gonna hold the dress code thing against me?" He grinned. "Only if you make me wear ripped jeans next time." "Deal." Then he leaned in. The kiss was soft, slow, and just a little bit hungry. Like we both knew we'd been misaligned all night, but this was finally synced up. When we pulled back, I whispered, "Still think this is your version of casual?" He laughed. "Let's just say next time, I'll ask what you're wearing first." Smart man. He kissed me again, and this time I grabbed his tie and pulled him just a little closer. Because mismatched or not, this was working. It was supposed to be chill. A casual drive, some low-stakes conversation, maybe a stop for coffee or soft serve if things were vibing. No pressure. No expectations. Definitely no emotional landmines. But then again, I'd forgotten about Jessica. Not the Jessica I was seeing. The other one. Let me back up. Her name was Kayla. We'd matched on a Sunday night, right after I deleted and re-downloaded the app for the 3rd time that month. She had dark curly hair and a bio that said, I don't trust people who don't like garlic bread. We bonded immediately over a shared hatred for people who text LOL after every sentence. By Thursday, we agreed to meet up. Her idea: let's skip the awkward dinner thing and just go for a drive. I liked that. It felt old school. Intimate, but with an easy out. Plus, I had just cleaned my car and added one of those air fresheners that smells like eucalyptus and ambition. I picked her up at 8. She slid into the passenger seat wearing a black hoodie and ripped jeans, her hair tied up in a messy bun that somehow looked effortless and perfect. "Hey," she said, glancing around my car. "You're cleaner than expected." "Thanks," I said. "I vacuumed for you." She laughed. "I feel honored." We pulled onto the highway. The windows were cracked just enough to let the breeze in. It should have been the start of one of those cute indie movie montages. Hands out the window, city lights, slow smiles. But then I made the mistake. "Alexa," I said confidently, "play something romantic." There was a pause. Then the car speakers lit up. Playing playlist, love songs for my ex Jessica. I froze. Kayla turned to me slowly. "I'm sorry." "What?" I scrambled. "Wait, no, that's not what I meant." The next thing I knew, Toni Braxton's voice filled the car. "Unbreak my heart, say you'll love me again." Kayla blinked. "Oh my God." I lunged for the dashboard. "I swear, that wasn't supposed to happen." "Was that your playlist?" "No. I mean, yes. But not for now. It was old. It's old." She crossed her arms. "So, who's Jessica?" I wanted to melt into the driver's seat. "She's someone I used to date." "No kidding." I hit skip. The next song started. "Someone Like You" by Adele. "Oh my God," Kayla muttered, shaking her head. "Do you just drive around crying to this?" "No. I mean, not anymore." I winced. "Okay, maybe once." She didn't say anything, just stared out the window. I turned down the volume and tried to salvage the date. Look, I should have deleted that playlist. I didn't even remember it was still synced to my car. Right. I swear, I'm not hung up on her or anything. Sure. I sighed. Can we maybe just start over? She didn't answer. The silence stretched. I turned off the music entirely. The car filled with the hum of the tires and the sound of my ego deflating. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I kept glancing at her. She wasn't angry, just locked up. Like a wall had gone up, and I couldn't find the door. Finally, I pulled off into a scenic overlook. City lights sparkled in the distance. It was the kind of place people proposed or broke up. I hoped we weren't heading toward the latter. "I get it if this ruined everything," I said quietly. "But I really like you. And I promise I'm not that guy still writing poems about his ex." Kayla looked at me. "Did you write poems?" "Only once," I admitted. "And it was terrible." She cracked a smile. "Let me guess. Something about moonlight and betrayal. There might have been a metaphor involving a dying plant." She laughed finally. "Wow, that's tragic." It was. She leaned back in her seat. "Okay, let's reset." "Really?" "Yeah, but you don't get to pick the playlist anymore." "Fair." She grabbed my phone, scrolled for a second, then hit play. The speakers filled with the sound of 90s R&B, smooth, flirty, and just nostalgic enough to reset the mood. We talked. About music, college regrets, how she once got matching tattoos with her cousin after 2 mimosas. I told her about the time I accidentally sexted my boss instead of my girlfriend. Never write "can't wait to see you in that dress" smirking face to someone who signs your paychecks. By the end of the night, we were parked outside her place. The playlist had looped twice. The windows were fogged up from laughter and slightly flirty tension. She turned to me. "Well, you recovered." "I try." She leaned in. "Next time, maybe make a playlist that doesn't have an emotional backstory." Noted. We kissed. Not a makeout. Just enough to say, this isn't over yet. She opened the car door, then paused and looked at me one last time. "Also, retire that Toni Braxton track. It's not doing you any favors." And just like that, she was gone. I smiled, turned the car around, and started building a new playlist on the way home. One that didn't include Jessica, Adele, or any metaphors about dying houseplants. You know how sometimes you say something flirty and dumb, and you expect the other person to laugh, because obviously you're joking, but then they don't? Yeah, that. It started with a message that read, "I'm craving fries and bad decisions. You in?" Her name was Lexi. Blonde streaks in her hair, black winged eyeliner sharp enough to cut glass. Her profile said chaotic good, which should have been my first red flag. But I liked that. It felt exciting. Dangerous light. We'd been trading DMs for about a week. She was sarcastic, fast, and had a thing for late-night food runs. I suggested a casual hangout. She said, drive-through date. You pick me up. No playlist with sad white boys singing about their exes. I picked her up at 9 p.m. She slid into the passenger seat like she owned the car and immediately popped her gum. You smell like vanilla and anxiety, she said. Yeah, it's my signature scent. She laughed. Let's get food. I'm starving. The plan was simple. Hit the burger place on 6th Street, park somewhere, eat in the car, talk about how we're both not really looking for anything serious, and maybe make out a little if the vibe was right. I pulled into the drive-thru and glanced at her. Order whatever you want. It's on me. She turned to me, eyes gleaming. Oh yeah, I said smoothly like I had a black card and not a checking account that cried every time I opened my banking app. She leaned toward the speaker. Hi, can I get 50 chicken nuggets? I choked on nothing. The crackly voice responded, okay, 50 nuggets. Anything else? Lexi turned to me, smiling sweetly. Want anything? I blinked. Wait, you're actually getting 50 nuggets. You said whatever I want. Yeah, but I thought you'd get, like, a combo meal. Not a poultry mountain. She shrugged. You said it was on you. I'm just hungry. I laughed. Nervous. You're joking, right? The voice on the speaker interrupted. Your total is $58.20. Please pull forward. I froze. $58. At a drive-thru. I looked at her. She was still smiling. Not sarcastically, genuinely. Like she was excited. Like this was normal. I pulled forward in a daze. The teenage cashier looked at me like I was either a saint or an idiot. I tapped my card and prayed. It went through. Barely. Thanks, babe, she said as the bags were handed over. She called me babe. I wasn't sure if I liked that or if it was short for bankrupt. I parked in a nearby lot and killed the engine. She opened the bag like a kid on Christmas morning. Damn, that's a lot of nuggets, she said, eyes wide. Yup, I replied, still trying to figure out how to calculate the cost per nugget. She popped one in her mouth. You're not eating? I thought I'd wait. Let you enjoy the bounty. She laughed. You're weird. But like fun weird. I smiled weakly. She kept eating. Like truly committed. 10 minutes in, she'd already downed at least 20. The sound of dipping sauce packets being ripped open was starting to feel like a personal attack. So what do you do? She asked, mouth full. I'm in marketing, I said. Freelance stuff? Mostly ad copy, some social media campaigns. Oh cool, she said, dipping a nugget. So like memes for money? Basically. She nodded. Respect. What about you? I work at a boutique gym. Front desk. But I'm doing a course on cosmetic tattooing. Like microblading? Yeah. Eventually I want to do lip blushing. I nodded like I knew what that meant. We talked. About tattoos, breakups, bad Tinder dates. She told me about a guy who cried during sex because she reminded him of his mom. I told her about a girl who invited me over, then made me watch her rehearse a slam poem about climate grief. We were laughing. For a moment, I forgot about the $58.20 and the fact that I hadn't eaten a single fry. The vibe was actually good. Then she reached into the bag and pulled out the last nugget. Wow, she said. Guess I was hungrier than I thought. I stared. You ate all 50. She blinked. You didn't want any, right? I thought I'd get at least one. Oh, she said. Sorry. You should have said something. I smiled. The kind of smile that hides quiet rage. It's fine, I said, voice tight. I'm just here to fund your sodium intake. She laughed. You're funny. She leaned in then close. Her hand brushed my thigh. You want to come back to my place? She asked low. I paused. I had no idea how to respond. My stomach was empty. My wallet was sad. My dignity was somewhere in the bottom of a fast food bag next to an empty honey mustard. But she was hot, and she had just eaten 50 nuggets like it was foreplay. So I said yes. Her apartment was small but cute. Plants everywhere. A neon sign above her bed that said "Stay Wild." She lit a candle that smelled like cinnamon and something vaguely threatening. We made out. Things got hot. There was some clothing removal. I forgot, briefly, that I was broke and starving. Then she paused. You have protection, right? I nodded. Yeah, in my wallet. I reached for my jeans, opened my wallet. Empty. No condom. No cash. No dignity. She laughed. Really? I thought I had won. I swear. It's cool, she said, pulling back. We'll just chill. We lay there in silence for a few minutes. I could hear her stomach gurgle. You okay? I asked. She smiled. Yeah, just maybe 50 nuggets was too many. I nodded. You think? She rolled over. Wake me if you leave. I didn't. I lay there, fully clothed, staring at her ceiling, wondering how I became the guy who paid $60 to watch someone else eat. The next morning, she texted. Last night was fun. Let's do it again, but maybe you get fries next time, winking face. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because my bank account was at $3.17, and I was still hungry. The first mistake was trying to impress her. The second was not asking what Inferno Level 5 meant. The third was, well, everything that came after. Let's rewind. Her name was Danny. She was one of those girls who made you feel like you had to earn every smile, and I liked that. Her profile said sucker for good tattoos, good tacos, and guys who can handle the heat. Naturally, I took that as a challenge. Dumb. We matched on a Tuesday. By Friday, we were standing outside a little strip mall taqueria that she claimed had the best burritos in the city, period. I was trying to play it cool in a plain black tee and jeans, doing that thing where you pretend not to care how hot someone is while nervously adjusting your belt every 5 minutes. She was stunning. Tight jeans, half-tucked crop top, hair pulled back in a way that showed off her neck. She had a tiny flame tattoo on her collarbone and a look that said, "Don't waste my time." "Hope you're hungry," she said, pushing open the door. "Starving," I said, which was only partially true. My stomach was already doing nervous somersaults. Inside, the place was tiny. Loud music, neon signs, and a menu board that looked like it was written by someone with a vendetta against the English language. We ordered at the counter. She got a carne asada burrito with a side of mild salsa. I, in a moment of pure testosterone-fueled idiocy, said, "I'll do the Diablo burrito. Level 5. The team behind the counter paused. "You sure, man? That's the hottest we've got." I glanced at Danny. She raised an eyebrow, smirking. "I can handle it," I said. "Mistake. Big mistake." We sat down at a corner booth. She was sipping horchata, legs crossed, looking effortlessly sexy. I was already sweating a little, but I blamed the heat lamps overhead. "So," she said, leaning forward, "what made you swipe on me?" I shrugged. "You looked like you could break my heart and not even feel bad about it." She laughed. "Not bad. I'll give you points for honesty." Then the burritos arrived. Hers looked normal, warm, cheesy, delicious. Mine looked like it had been assembled in hell. I unwrapped it, and within seconds, the smell hit me. It was smoky, pungent, and vaguely violent, like regret in food form. I took a bite. At first, it wasn't bad. Spicy, sure, but manageable. I chewed, nodded, even smiled. "Not bad," I said, mouth full. She blinked. "You good?" I gave a thumbs up. Then the burn hit. Not a quick little tingle. No, this was deep. Sinister. Like the spice had teeth, and it had just sunk them into the roof of my mouth. My tongue felt like it was being punished for something. My eyes watered. My nose started to run. "Still good?" she asked, sipping her horchata like a queen watching a peasant suffer. "Great," I croaked. I took another bite. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I was trying to prove something. Maybe because I thought it would get better. It did not. By minute 10, I was sweating like I'd just run a 5K in a sauna. My shirt stuck to my back. My hands trembled. I hiccuped once. Then again. Then violently. Danny was watching me now, equal parts amused and concerned. "You look like you're going through something." "I'm fine," I choked out, wiping my forehead with a napkin that immediately disintegrated from the sweat. "You're hiccuping like a cartoon character." "It's just spicy joy." She snorted. "Want some of my salsa to cool off?" I looked at her. "That's not how cooling works." She shrugged, still holding her burrito like a goddess untouched by fire. I stood up. "Excuse me. Just gonna hit the bathroom real quick." "Take your time," she said, smirking as I staggered off like I'd been shot in the leg. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face. It didn't help. My lips were numb. My tongue was throbbing. I looked in the mirror and saw a man who had made choices. Bad ones. I stayed there for 5 minutes, breathing through my mouth like a dying walrus. Then I returned to the table. "You good?" she asked. "Better," I lied, sitting down. Another bite. "Why?" "No idea. Maybe I thought surviving it would give me sex appeal." Maybe I thought I was on Hot Ones. I hiccuped again. My stomach gurgled. Loudly. The kind of gurgle that says, evacuation imminent. Oh no, I whispered. What? Danny asked. Bathroom. Again. I booked it. Round 2 in the bathroom was less about recovery and more about survival. I'll spare you the details, but let's just say it was a spiritual experience. I made promises to God. I questioned my life choices. I considered texting my mom. When I returned, slightly paler, considerably emptier, Danny was halfway through her burrito and scrolling on her phone. You good now? Define good, I said, sitting cautiously. She smiled. You tried. I'll give you that. I was trying to impress you. And you kind of did. In a masochistic, dumbass kind of way. I laughed, or tried to. The laugh came out as a wheeze. She leaned forward. You know, if you'd just ordered something normal, we still would have had a great time. Yeah. You didn't have to destroy your insides to spark my interest. I smiled. So you'd go out with me again? She raised an eyebrow. Only if you promise not to flirt by digesting lava next time. Deal. We stood. I reached for my half-eaten burrito, thought better of it, and left it in the foil like a ticking bomb. Outside, the air was cool. My stomach was not. She looked at me. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Would you have survived a level 6? I paused. I don't think I would have survived a level 5 plus one more bite. She laughed, stepped closer, and kissed me. Lightly, but enough to make me forget about the fire in my gut for half a second. Call me, she said, walking away. I did. But I never ordered that burrito again. It was supposed to be the perfect night. Like rom-com montage perfect. Warm lighting. Homemade pasta. Spotify's date night jazz playlist humming softly through her Bluetooth speaker. She'd even lit candles, not the cheap tea lights either, but the big chunky ones that smell like sandalwood and sexual tension. She had been planning the evening for days. This was the second date. First was coffee, safe, public, no pressure. But this was the I like you enough to let you use a weird refrigerator level of intimacy. Her name was Tasha. His name was Eric. He had the kind of deep voice you want reading your grocery list to you in bed. And Tasha had a thing for men who didn't use LOL ironically. She spent the day cooking. She Googled easy but impressive dinner recipes and settled on a cashew cream pasta that had 5 stars and one comment that read, "Made this for my husband, and now we have twins." Perfect. By the time he buzzed up to her apartment, she had everything set. Wine breathing. Lingerie under her softest sweater, just in case. And the scent of garlic and ambition wafting through the air. He walked in, looking all tall and flirty in that slightly wrinkled on purpose button-up. They hugged. She might have sniffed him. Sue her, he smelled like cedar and hope. I brought wine, he said, holding up a bottle of red. I Googled what goes with pasta. She melted a little. You're dangerous. Wait until you taste my wine opening skills. He wasn't kidding. The cork broke. Twice. They both laughed. Dinner was served. A candle flickered dramatically between them like it was about to propose. He took a bite. Chewed. Nodded. This is amazing, he said, swallowing. Tasha beamed, already mentally writing her wedding vows. Then he coughed. Not like a little, oh, I swallowed wrong cough. This was the kind of cough that comes with a full-body shudder. He grabbed his water. Chugged. Coughed again, harder. You okay? She asked, half laughing. Yeah, just, he paused, looking suddenly pale. What's in the sauce? She blinked. Cashews. It's a cashew cream. Why? He froze. His eyes widened. I'm allergic to cashews. Wait, what? Like severely allergic. Oh my God. Do you have an EpiPen? What? No. Do you? In my jacket pocket. Right pocket. Hurry. She bolted to the entryway. Her heart was hammering like it owed her money. She fumbled with the zipper, dug through the pocket, found the pen, and ran back. He was gasping now, his face blotchy, his throat audibly closing. Do I stab you with it? She asked, panicked. Yes. Thigh. Just do it. Like through pants. Yes. She did it. Right through the jeans. He yelped. She screamed. The candle fell over. The Spotify playlist kept playing like it was oblivious to the unfolding medical crisis. A few seconds passed. He was breathing. Not well, but better. I'm calling an ambulance, she said, already dialing. Good idea, he croaked. Also, I think you broke my leg. Sorry. The paramedics arrived 10 minutes later. She opened the door with frazzled hair, a trembling voice, and sauce-stained hands. They took one look at Eric and got to work. He was conscious, breathing, stable. As they wheeled him out, one of the EMTs leaned over and asked him what happened. Eric, without hesitation, said, "She almost killed me. With pasta." The EMT laughed. Tasha did not. She stood there, in the middle of her ruined date-night fantasy, watching the man she'd been crushing on get loaded into an ambulance, clutching an empty wine glass and what was left of her dignity. After they left, she looked around. The table was a mess. The candles had melted into her placemats. The pasta had gone cold. She sat down, took a bite, and muttered, "You're still amazing, you little murder noodles." Later that night, he texted her from the hospital. "Eric, so that was dramatic." "Tasha, I'm so sorry." "Eric, you didn't know. It's on me. Should have told you." "Tasha, I thought I was going to be arrested for culinary manslaughter." "Eric, would have made a great third date story." "Tasha, there's a third date." "Eric, I mean, unless you're planning to feed me cashew dessert." She stared at the screen for a long time. Then slowly she smiled. "Tasha, let's do Thai food next time. I promise to ask for allergies before I seduce anyone with sauce." By the time I sat down across from her at the candlelit bistro table, I was already half in love. Chloe had that kind of laugh that made you feel like you'd just told the best joke in the world, even when you'd barely muttered something about dogs and Halloween costumes. We'd been texting for weeks, and she'd sent just enough flirty, oddly specific voice notes to make me feel like we'd known each other longer than we had. She wore a dark green dress that clung to her curves like a jealous ex. Her lips were painted a shade of red that said, "Yes, I know what I'm doing." I felt underdressed and overmatched, but she smiled as I sat down and said, "You're cuter than your photos." I grinned. I was about to say the same, but I figured that might be too predictable. She laughed. Predictable's not always bad. The waiter came. We ordered drinks. Conversation flowed like warm butter over toast. She told me about her job at a boutique PR firm, how she'd recently gone no contact with her toxic roommate, and how she once got stuck in a doggy door trying to rescue a cat. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my sangria. After about 20 minutes, I leaned in a little closer and said the thing I'd been feeling since the first 5 minutes. "I've never clicked with anyone like this before." She smiled. "That's kind of dangerous to say on a first date." "I like danger," I said. And then, yes, I'll admit this, she kissed me. Right there, in the middle of the restaurant, with the waiter awkwardly hovering behind her holding our appetizers. A quick kiss, but one with tongue and just enough electricity to make me forget my name for a second. Then she pulled back, giggled, and said, "Well, this is going better than I expected." That's when the front door of the restaurant opened. I barely noticed at first, just the usual bistro shuffle, people coming and going. But then I heard it. "Claire, what the actual hell are you doing?" My date's face froze. I turned around slowly, like one of those guys in a horror movie who just realized the mirror doesn't show his reflection anymore. Standing at the entrance was a woman. Same dark green eyes. Same hair. Same cheekbones. Same dress. Well, not the same. Her dress was black, not green. But otherwise, identical. I looked back at my date. "Claire?" I said, voice suddenly dry. She grimaced. "Okay, so." The other woman was already marching toward us. "You've got to be kidding me," she said, stopping at our table and glaring at Claire. "You read my texts? You pretended to be me?" Claire shrugged, like she was being accused of borrowing a sweater without asking. "You weren't doing anything with him. I thought he seemed nice." "I was literally going to meet him tonight," the real Chloe snapped. "Yeah, and I beat you to it." Claire sipped her wine. "Also, he's a great kisser. Did you know that?" I wanted to vanish. I wanted to crawl under the table and dissolve into the floor. Chloe turned to me. "You didn't know?" I shook my head like a stunned bobblehead. "I swear, I thought she was you. I mean, she sent the messages. The voice notes. Everything." Claire snorted. "You're so easy. I even called you babe, once, and you just..." "Okay," I cut in. "Let's not." Chloe's eyes narrowed. "He said he'd never clicked with anyone like this before?" Claire nodded proudly. "Right after I told him about the doggy door story. That was mine, by the way." "Unbelievable," Chloe muttered, backing away from the table. "You're both sick." She turned and left, pushing open the door with all the fury of a hurricane in heels. Claire watched her go, unfazed. "Welp, that went better than I expected." I stared at her. You lied to me. You tricked me into going on a date with you. She blinked. And we kissed. She grinned. You said you liked danger. I stood up. My chair scraped too loudly and knocked into the waiter behind me, who dropped a tray of calamari. Claire laughed. Seriously? I said. You think this is funny? Kind of. I mean, look at your face. I threw down a 20 and walked out. She didn't follow. On the ride home, I thought about deleting every dating app I'd ever used. I also thought about getting a facial tattoo that said, "Ask for ID." But the worst part, the very worst part, I couldn't stop thinking about the kiss. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Claire. Just wanted to say thanks for the night. Chloe's still mad, but she'll get over it. You were fun, winking face. I blocked the number, then unblocked, then blocked again, then lay on my bed staring at the ceiling like a man who had just been emotionally mugged and wasn't sure if he wanted to press charges or ask for another date.